we're about to uncover one of the strangest and most powerful partnerships you can possibly imagine. The hidden connection between Japan's biggest celebrities and its most feared crime syndicate, the Yakuza.
So it all kicks off with this really bizarre scene, at a funeral of all places. And it makes you wonder, right? Why would Japan's biggest, most beloved stars be mourning a notorious gangster?
And get this, it wasn't even a well-kept secret. I mean, you had famous singers like Tabata Yoshio basically saying, hey, who in the industry wasn't helped by this guy? The man he's talking about? Taoka Kazuo. And believe me, his story, it explains everything.
All right, so to really get this, we've got to start at the end of the story, with Taka's funeral. Because this is where these two worlds he secretly controlled, crime and pop culture, just crashed into each other right out in the open.
Picture this. It's July 1981. Taoka Kazuo, who is basically the godfather of the Yamaguchi-gumi, Japan's biggest Yakuza family, dies of a heart attack. But it's the guest list for his funeral that really tells the story. It's eye-opening, to say the least.
I mean, just look at this lineup. Of course, you've got about 1,300 Yakuza members from all over the country. That makes sense. But then you see top politicians. You see A-list movie stars like Takakura Ken. You see famous singers. It was this absolutely wild display of power that just blew right through every social line you can imagine.
So the big question is, how did one guy build an empire that could command respect from both gangsters and movie stars? To answer that, we need to rewind. We're going back to the chaos of post-World War II Japan, because that's where Taoka starts his brutal climb to the top. Okay, before we go any further, you need to understand how the Yakuza works. It's all about this structure. At the very top, you have the Oyabun, which literally means the father role. He expects absolute unquestioning loyalty, and in return, he gives his children, the Kobun, protection, a job, a family. And Taoka? Well, he basically became the ultimate Oyabun.
And his rise to power was just unbelievably fast. He gets out of prison in 1943. 3 years later, bam, he's the new boss of the Yamaguchi-gumi. The thing is, the gang he took over was, well, it was practically nothing. The war had just decimated it.
Yeah, look at this. 25. That's it. That's how many guys were left in the gang when he took charge. 25. He was literally starting from scratch, and that's what makes what he did next so insane.
So how did he do it? Pure, ruthless violence. He got the nickname Kuma, the bear, for how ferocious he was in a brawl. And he had this one signature move that was just legendarily brutal, gouging out his opponent's eyes. Yeah, this was not a guy you wanted to mess with.
But here's the twist. Sheer brutality doesn't get you that far. Taoka wasn't just a thug. He was a brilliant, and I mean ruthless businessman. His real genius was figuring out that the real money, the big money, wasn't in old-school crime anymore. It was in legitimate businesses.
And this really shows you his whole game plan. See, while all the other Yakuza gangs were still focused on the usual stuff, gambling, extortion, Taoka was thinking way bigger. He pushed his guys into huge industries like construction, taking control of the ports. But his real masterstroke, the move nobody saw coming, show business.
Think about it. In post-war Japan, there's this huge power vacuum. People are just desperate for some kind of escape, right? They want music, movies, comedy. Tatagoa saw this and realized it was a goldmine. So he did what any smart, ruthless businessman would do. He started his own talent agency to get a piece of the action. A very, very big piece.
And we're not talking about local bar bands here. No. His agency managed some of the biggest names of the entire era. The legendary singer Misora Hibari? Yep. Famous comedians like Enamoto Kenichi? Him too. Popular musicians? You bet. They were all effectively working for the Yakuza.
Which, of course, brings us right back to that first big question. Why? Why on earth would these massive celebrities sign up with a guy like Taka? Well, the truth is, it was a partnership. A really strange one, for sure. But a partnership where both sides were getting something they desperately needed.
I know, it sounds crazy, right? What could a crime syndicate possibly offer a glamorous superstar? And what could a star offer them? The answer to both is hidden in just how chaotic and lawless the Japanese entertainment industry was back then.
It's actually pretty simple. For the stars, the Yakuza offered something they couldn't get anywhere else: order.
In an industry that was basically the Wild West, Taoka's people could settle contract problems, get them into the best venues, which they often controlled, and protect them from rivals or crazy fans. And for the Yakuza, the payoff was huge. We're talking immense profits, a fantastic way to wash their dirty money, and a ton of social clout.
And make no mistake, this showbiz venture wasn't just some little side project. No, this was the bedrock of a modern criminal corporation. It's what turned the Yamaguchi-gumi from a street gang into an absolute economic powerhouse. I mean, just think about where he started. He took that tiny, forgotten crew of just 25 guys, and with this insane mix of street brutality and boardroom smarts, he built a corporate empire the likes of which Japan had never seen.
And by the time he died, get ready for this. The estimated annual revenue of his organization was $460 million. Let me say that again. Annually. His big gamble on legitimate businesses, especially entertainment, had paid off bigger than anyone could have ever dreamed. His legacy was just massive. He took the gang from 25 members to over 10,000. He grew it from a local gang in Kobe to a nationwide alliance that controlled hundreds of other Yakuza families. And he went from a street brawler to a guy who had the ear of Japan's deputy prime minister. That's power. So let's go back to that funeral one last time. Those stars, the ones mourning in the crowd, they weren't there because they were scared. They were there to pay respects to a man who was, for better or for worse, their patron, their protector, and their business partner. The whole story of Taoka really makes you think, doesn't it? It just goes to show that behind the slick, glamorous surface of pop culture, there can be this whole hidden world of power and money that we almost never see. It kind of leaves you with a big question. What else is built on a foundation we know nothing about?